चार्ट अपने आप में पूरी थाली है, बट दशा नमक है।
Because I'm a researcher. So I'm not a Jyotishi first, I'm a researcher first, and then you can call me a student of Jyotish.
If you remove dasha from the Jyotish, it becomes more or less a counseling science.
तो तब आपको पता चलेगा कि मेन महादशा में ट्रेलर क्या दिया है। मूवी तो अभी भी, पिक्चर अभी बाकी है, बट ट्रेलर तो दिखाएगा वो।
जब आप किचन में होते हो तो भोजन बनाते हो, बेडरूम में होते हो तो सोते हो, जब आप स्टडी रूम में होते हो तो पढ़ते हो। तो जहां आप होते हो, द प्लेस वेयर अ प्लैनेट इज सिटिंग, ही हैज टू फॉलो द रूल ऑफ दैट प्लेस।
नमस्कार, एस्ट्रोलोग के इस पॉडकास्ट में आप सभी का बहुत स्वागत है। मैं हूं आपकी होस्ट अंजिता। आज के पॉडकास्ट का टॉपिक है वैदिक ज्योतिष में दशा का महत्व। और इस टॉपिक को चर्चा करने के लिए आज हमसे जुड़े हैं हमारे स्टूडियोज में दो बहुत ही रिनाउंड और एकम्प्लिश्ड एस्ट्रोलॉजर्स, डॉक्टर अर्जुन पाई और श्री आलोक खंडेलवाल। Dr. Arjun Pai, a doctorate in electronic system design, is a distinguished researcher, an astrology teacher, and an astrologer expert in decoding nakshatras. He helps professionals and enthusiasts across the globe deepen their knowledge in Vedic sciences. Sri Alok Khandelwal is a renowned and extremely accomplished astrologer, astro coach, and an entrepreneur. Holding esteemed qualifications like Jyotish Bhushan, Jyotish Ratna, and Jyotish Rishi, he has a clientele across the globe. He is also the co-founder, managing director, and the chief mentor of Astrolog, which is a premium astrology education and consulting institute in our country. Dr. Pai, Alok sir, a very warm welcome to both of you on our podcast tonight.
Thank you, Anjita ji. Thank you very much.
Sirs, as we know that the father of Vedic Jyotish, Rishi Parashar, has talked about 42 Mahadashas in the scriptures. And out of these, the most widely accepted and used by all astrologers across the world is the Vimshotri Dasha, which is the Nakshatra-based Dasha. So my first question would be to you, Dr. Pai, that when we say that this Dasha is a Nakshatra-based Dasha, what do we mean by this?
Okay. So basically we have three types of dashas that we can think about. One is basically, you can say not three, but two. One are Phalita dashas, and then we have Ayush dashas or Ayur dashas. Okay, that's for generally for seeing your health, your well-being, and other things. And Phalita is where you can use very generically as well. Like you already mentioned, Parashar Rishi has come up with the 42. In most of the versions of Parashara Hora Shastri, you will see only 32 being mentioned, because if you go to one of the translations which is given by Harihar Majumdar in its Bengali version of Parashara Hora Shastra, where he talks about the other 10 missing ones. Okay. Now, Vimshotri is a very generic Phalit Dasha system which can be applicable to all people across all nativities. You can use Vimshotri Dasha. That is what Parashar Rishi has said. However, I would also encourage people to look at the conditional dashas which Parashara is also given. And in the Nakshatra-based Dasha system, see, there are, as I mentioned, out of these general Phalit Dashas, and also we said Ayur Dashas, there are Nakshatra-based Dashas, which is the seed is always based on a particular nakshatra from where the Dasha system would begin. So we have Rashi-based and Graha-based as well. When I say nakshatra means Graha is also considered, because each nakshatra is given to a particular Graha, and from there we start our Dasha system. So nakshatras are, so I say the nakshatra-based dashas are given more importance by Parashar Rishi, is because nakshatras are the seeds of our karmas. So that is why Nakshatra-based Dashas, like we said, there are conditional and unconditional ones. So Vimshottari is one of them. Okay.
सर आलोक सर, दशा सिस्टम हमारे वैदिक ज्योतिष में इतना महत्वपूर्ण क्यों माना जाता है?
काफ़ी अच्छा प्रश्न है. So basically, if you talk about Vedic Jyotish or Indian Jyotish, for example, the most important thing which I'll say is the beauty of that dasha. Because आप किसी कुंडली को एनालिसिस कर लोगे, उसके अंदर पॉसिबिलिटी को तलाश लोगे कि ये संभावना है, बट वो घटना घटेगी कब, कोई भी इवेंट होगा कब, ये ही पूछने कोई आता है. जब आपके अंदर कोई इंक्वायरी आती है, तो बेसिकली आपको ये लग सकता है कि भाई मैं काफ़ी अच्छा बिजनेस करूंगा या करूंगी, बट व्हेन आई विल बिकम दैट बिजनेसमैन. So that's why it is so important that as a Jyotishi or maybe as a seeker also, we should be knowing about the timing of any event. And if and that is the beauty of Vedic Jyotish or Indian Jyotish, that we could actually pinpoint. And as Dr. Saab has said, there are so many kind of dashas, Rashi-based dasha, Nakshatra-based dasha, Ayur kind of dasha also. We can basically pinpoint different aspect of different of our life. So some dashas which we can use for everything, like Vimshotri dasha, and there are some conditional dasha in the individual horoscope also, and depending upon the uses also, maybe Kal Chakra dasha, or for some age calculation, Arishta calculation. There are so many different kind of dashas are there. So for me, if you remove dasha from the Jyotish, so then it becomes more or less a counseling science basically, because through dasha you can you basically interpret the arishta, the good time, the rajyog karak time, the arishtayog karak time, bad time, dhan karak time. So timing is the most important thing in anybody's life, and jyotish is nothing but calculation of time basically. तो मेरे लिए तो ये सबसे महत्वपूर्ण है.
तो सर क्या हम इसको ऐसे कह सकते हैं कि चार्ट, कोई भी जातक का चार्ट होता है और दशा होती है, तो चार्ट बिना दशा के कुछ नहीं कर सकती. इट्स लाइक अ लॉक विच हैज़ टू बी ओपन विद दिस की, मतलब आप फलित करते हैं तो उसके लिए दशा बहुत ज़रूरी है.
फलित के लिए दशा बहुत जरूरी. चार्ट अपने आप में पूरी थाली है, बट दशा नमक है बेसिकली. सो फलित तो फलित आप जैसे चार्ट हमें अपने पूरी पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ द लाइफ बता रहा है, बट एक्चुअली तो मेरे लिए सबसे एज ए ह्यूमन सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है कब होगा. तो ये दोनों साथ में ही है. बिना चार्ट चार्ट और दशा कॉम्प्लीमेंट ही करते हैं एक दूसरे को मेरी नज़र में तो, और डॉक्टर साहब इस पर और बात कर ही सकते हैं ऑब्वियसली. बट right now when everybody is like full of aspirations, full of anxieties, full of chintas, then dasha becomes very important even today. आज के टाइम में दशा बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्योंकि अब लोगों को जल्दी जल्दी चाहिए हर चीज. सबको सबको छोटा बच्चा भी आता है 15 साल 20 साल का, तो उसको भी अपना आगे 25 साल तक का जानना है. इज नॉट इवन मतलब उसको ये नहीं है कि जो हमारे जमाने में तो होता था, हमें लगता था हम ग्रेजुएट हो जाएंगे क्या, ये प्रश्न रहता था. But now even a 20 years kid or 18 years kid will be asking about कि मैं घर कब लूंगा, मैं BMW कब लूंगा. So now timing becomes much more important in today's scenario basically.
Dr. Pai, would you like to add anything to it? The importance of dasha in Vedic Jyotish?
If you have to really understand the science of karmas, then we need to know that there are three types of karmas which are essentially there. One is called as a Dhrida karma. Dhrida means it is fixed. So basically, the cause and effect that you need to study can only be studied in Jyotisha, which is Vedic astrology, is through progressions of time. Now, these progressions of time is what we say is dasha. Now, when we say dasha, you have to understand that the literal meaning of dasha. So, dasha means a state, isn't it? That is the dash. Dash, uska dash kya hai means it is the state of the consciousness that is there. It's the condition, it's the circumstances of existence of a body, whether it is animate or whether it is inanimate. So these are very predefined periods which are called as Dhrida karmas. So if you have to really see when the cause and the effect will happen based on the karmas, then there is no better system in Vedic astrology than the dasha to time that event. Then what we have is adrida karmas. What is adrida karmas? Which are not fixed, which is gochara, your transits. The results may happen or may not happen. That's why it's called as adrida. So that's why whenever we have to really look at the progressions of time and to make a predictive analysis, then we need to study dashas along with gochar, because gochar are the trigger points, but some may trigger, some may not trigger. And finally, to come to grips with understanding the results and interpretation of the dashas, what we need to know is yogas, because some may fructify and some may not fructify. That's why they are called as drida adrida karmas. So I agree with Alok ji. See, when we are looking at all of this, we'll have to first see what is the promise of the chart. And if that promise of the chart, when will it activate? That's why we need the dashas. There might be some very fantastic yogas which might be there in a chart, but they might be very dormant. They might not dominate. They might say, I have so many Raj Yogas, I have so many exaltation planets in my chart. But if they have to fructify and the fall has to come, then those particular governing bodies which define the time stamp, they have to come. And to add to that, we also have to see the Gochara, which means, see, there are two types. Many people forget the influence of Gochar. Gochar is always to be seen from your natal moon in your natal chart. Okay. Then there is Grahachara. Grahachara means how that planetary transit has an influence on every other planet in your chart. So we have to see Grahachara as well as Gochara. But maybe everybody talks about Gochara is because we are talking about the Janma Nakshatra. And from that perspective, every little transit, because what is the influence on the mind? But we have to see the grahachara or aspects as well. And that is what is studied more in the nadi concepts. If you see, nadis is always about the trines and see how they are linking with each of your natal planets in timing of events. Okay, so that is to summarize. So you need to understand there is drida, which is only in dashas, which is the fixed, the free will that can operate can also be seen, and the destiny can also be seen from the dasha concept.
Dr. Pai, in the Dasha system, there are sub-dashas. For example, Mahadasha has the Antardasha, then we have the Pratyantar and the Sukshma and the Pran. So, what is the importance of these sub-dashas? Why do we need that?
See, the main dasha nath is usually governed by a particular nakshatra. The seeds of that is there in that nakshatra. However, the Mahadasha nath or the main lord or the Mahadasha pati, he is the governing one who actually dictates the entire show for you in that chart. All the subsequent which come under it, which we are saying the sub-dashas, the sub-sub-dashas, that's why we have 6 layers. If you look at 6 layers, start with Mahadasha, and we have Antardasha. Then we have further when we go down to Pratyantara, and from Pratyantara we go to Sukshma, Prana, Deha Dashas. So these are the layers, but each of them are governing, but all of them are governed by the Mahadashanath. So he is the dictating force there. And the respective parts are like subordinates who are trying to help the Mahadashanath to, to give the results or the Falita that we are talking about. So that layered piece is to understand the evolution of the karmas that are happening for an individual.
आलोक सर, किसी भी इवेंट के सही समय को बताने के लिए ग्रह दशा कैसे रोल प्ले करती है?
So basically, how do we predict events? Basically, this is
जी,
what I think the
एग्जैक्टली,
question.
यस सर.
So obviously, every planet has got some energy in your chart, right? So maybe he's lording some places, he's sitting somewhere, he's aspecting some other planets, or maybe aspecting some other houses. So what we basically do in Vedic Jyotish is we need to basically understand that how many roles this planet is 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 implementing in my chart. So there can be two kind of roles. One is मेरा खुद का lordship किस किस house पर है. So that is my direct responsibility. For example, if you are a mother, then taking care of your child is your direct responsibility, right? तो मेरा खुद का लॉर्डशिप क्या है? Then मैं इस लॉर्डशिप के थ्रू इस पोजीशन में बैठा हूं तो कहां बैठा हूं? फॉर एग्जांपल समबडी, एक एक ग्रह अगर नवमेश है या नाइन्थ लॉर्ड है, तो वो जहां भी बैठेगा वो नाइन्थ लॉर्ड की हैसियत से बैठेगा, लेकिन जहां बैठेगा उस जगह के हिसाब से उसको रिजल्ट देने होंगे। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, जब आप किचन में होते हो तो भोजन बनाते हो, जब आप बेडरूम में होते हो तो सोते हो, जब आप स्टडी रूम में होते हो तो पढ़ते हो। तो जहां आप होते हो, the place where a planet is sitting, he has to follow the rule of that place. So majorly every planet is responsible for giving the result of its own house, but he will use his placement. Then what is the desire of the graha? I mean, desire is anyways ours, but inculcated by the graha in our chart is seen through the aspect of that planet. So we will basically accumulate the lordship of the planet, placement of the planet, aspect on the planet, and then finally, is there any conjunction happening with the planet? Because when I am sitting with you, I have to adjust my behavior according to your wish also. Maybe I am not liking it, that means two planets are sitting who are enemy to each other, and maybe I am liking your you are sitting with me because we are friends with each other. So then the behavior of the graha will also change according to the conjunction. And then finally, exchange. And a planet will be giving you the result of the nakshatra lord as well. So maybe Dr. Saab can put a lot of light on this. But since the nakshatra is the final placement of the graha, so in the sky, if a graha is placed somewhere, it is a part of a rashi, but basically it is somewhere in a nakshatra. So these all things we will be looking at, although it is not very easy, but yes, this is the final thing which we have to see, and then on the basis of this, we will calculate in this Mahadasha these kind of results are coming. So maybe you can buy a property, then you have some illness, you can get married also, you can have kids. At the same time, there can be a fall in the career, and you can visit a foreign place also. Now, for me, how I calculate, I can share that the Antardashanath either will complement the Mahadashanath or obstruct the Mahadashanath. That is depending upon their placement from each other and their placement from the Lagna. So for me, like in a day, you have different kind of experience in a single day. So maybe you have a late start in the morning, then you go to you have a small fight with the husband or the wife, then you go to office, and then you have an appreciation from the boss. While coming back from the office, you can have a traffic jam and you are very frustrated, getting angry, and then you are yelling at your child when you come back home in one day, right? So in one day, you have got some ups, you have got some downs. Same way, the Mahadashanath and Antarnashanath commonly decide, okay, these are the results we want to fructify, and these are the results Antardashanath will try that he can stop Mahadashanath or not. And then we have to apply the Gochara. If Gochar gives you the approval, okay, Mahadashanath is ready to perform any task, Antardashanath is supporting, and then the Gochar is also favorable, indicating the same thing. As Dr. Saab has said, Gochar from the moon or the Lagna, Dr. Saab, I consider Lagna also, and then Gochar of the planet above any other planet, like Rahu aspect, Rahu transiting over Jupiter, Jupiter transiting over Saturn, these kind of Nadi transit which we say. So this is the, I mean, entire process which we follow. I'm sorry अगर मैंने ज़्यादा समय लिया हो इसमें.
No, sir, not at all. Dr. Pai, like Alok sir said, that the placement of a graha in a chart, when we start predicting the graha dasha, the result of the graha in the dasha, that's something that is our starting point. The graha sitting in a particular bhav, in a particular rashi. But it's also sitting in a particular nakshatra, which has a lord. So how would that contribute into prediction of events during dashas?
Okay. Nakshatras, I would always give an analogy to understand this concept. I would say Nakshatras are the condition of the soil, which means the earth. So you can say that all our nascent, karmic imprints are sitting inside the soil. So this is the fields of consciousness that we'd say nakshatras are. And the temperature, the weather, the water levels, all of these are contributing factors to say whether this is ready for, fertile enough to grow the crops. So these grahas, I would give an analogy that these grahas are like the farmers. They are plowing the fields of consciousness, which is the nakshatra. Okay. So whatever karmic seeds are sitting below, which have come to fructify, which means what we say is the prarabdha, they are being plowed and they are brought to the surface and they germinate, and then they give you the results based on the karma that is sitting in the nakshatras. So the nakshatras are the foremost entities which hold the karmic secrets, and they hold all the tenets of, now, in which condition they will germinate, in which condition they will grow, how they will grow. That is all given by the other aligning things, which are rashis will help you, bhavas will help you in understanding how those things will manifest. But where is the karma? They're all sitting in the nakshatras. That is why when we look at the nakshatra based system, so whenever suppose you're going through the Mahadasha of Surya, okay, so never forget to see what planets are sitting in the nakshatras in Vimshotri Dasha. The Surya's nakshatras also will hold the results which are going to come for the Surya Mahadasha. So if there are certain planets which are sitting, this is what is given by Parasharishi very clearly. He says, in doing the Falit, do not forget the influence of the grahas which are sitting in the nakshatras of that Mahadasha Nath. They will also influence the results. Besides doing the other things, you said, Alokji has already mentioned, look at, the Karaka, then Bhavas, and also the Gochar. So these will contribute, but what is the real essence of the karmas where they are coming? So that can be studied from the nakshatra, because nakshatras, as I said, are the abode of the devatas, right? We say, when we start with the mantra, let us say Gayatri mantra, we say Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. So if we understand this, Om Bhur, Bhur means Bhuloka, that we are residing here. And how are we controlled in the Bhuloka? The human beings are controlled by the bhavas. Bhavas means emotions. We have emotions attached because we are attached to the earth. Om Bhuvar. Om Bhur Bhuvak Swaha. Bhuva means the mid heavens. What is the mid heavens? The intermediate loka between the earth and the heavens is called as Bhuvaloka, where we have our solar system, where we have the grahas. That is where the grahas are actually forming an invisible layer which are called as the rashis. So Surya makes the rashis, isn't it? So their interplay which is there is at the Bhuvaloka. And then we have what is called as Swaha, which means Swargaloka. That is where we have the nakshatras. And all the devatas who are considered to be sitting in the nakshatra lokas are the governing bodies of our karmas. So the filter is the rashis. Bhavas is how the emotions based on a particular circumstance, how we react, that can be seen. So based on that also results can be analyzed. But the root of that karmic seed is sitting in the nakshatras. I hope I have tried to explain this in a very easy, simplistic manner. But nakshatra core for
Dr. Pai, that
understanding.
was actually very beautifully explained. I would just like to ask one thing, Dr. Pai, is that suppose we've taken this example of Surya Mahadasha. Okay. Now, suppose Surya is sitting in the nakshatra of, say, for example, Shani, or say, for example, Jupiter. How will that sitting in the nakshatra of Jupiter contribute in the Mahadasha? Does it have a contribution or it has no contribution?
No, it does, because the results will be altered by this presence in a different Rashi. in a different nakshatra and in a different bhava, they will alter the outcome that you would expect during a dasha. Okay, so the nakshatras will definitely play a role, but the main players are the main characters are in the dasha systems in Vimshotri, because see, that's why I'm not talking about any other dasha, because, and this is a bigger mistake everybody makes in dasha analysis. First of all, I want to say only in Vimshotri dasha, Surya is given to Kritika, is given to Uttarashada. These are specifically to this 120-year Mahadasha. If I go to Ashtotri, then Kritika is not given to Surya again there. So do you understand? So this association with the planetary energies in dashas are not universal. They are only fixed from dasha to dasha. So that's why you cannot say that, the nakshatra of Kritika means it's Surya's energies only. But in Vemshotri, what has happened is, Parashar Rishi has given Agni, which is the deity of Kritika, as the foremost, and Surya has been given to him, right? But not in every system of dashas, it is the same. So definitely, to answer your question, yes, the placement of the planetary in a different nakshatra will definitely influence the outcome of the results. But the primary actors are going to be who are sitting inside the nakshatra. These are called as Udu Dashas as well. Nakshatra Dashas are called Udu Dashas. Udu means moon. So the moon will play a very important role.
Okay.
However, even Alokji said, see, I've also observed that many of the outcomes of the dashas can also be seen starting from the lagna rather than also from the natal moon, which is the most common, which is natal moon is very definite. But much of the physical outcomes that you can see can also be started from the lagna,
Lagna.
and you can see the dasha.
Yeah.
Just the seed, instead of the moon being the first, you start with the ascendant to being the seed of the dasha to begin with. Lagna.
ओके आलोक सर, कुछ थोड़ी हम लोग स्पेशल दशास के बारे में बात करते हैं जो बहुत ही प्रचलित है. फॉर एग्जांपल राहु गुरु या शनि सूर्य, सूर्य राहु, राहु चंद्र, कुछ ऐसी दशास हैं जो जिससे लोग बहुत पीड़ित होते हैं और जो एस्ट्रोलॉजी स्टूडेंट्स, हमारे जैसे स्टूडेंट्स के लिए बहुत एक चर्चा का विषय भी बनते हैं. तो उस पे थोड़ा सा आप बात करें, स्पेशल दशास पे.
तो सही बात है, राहु शनि केतु ये तो ज्योतिषियों का घर चलाते हैं, तो इसलिए बड़े फेमस है. तो दशा को मेरा जो देखने का नजरिया है वो दो है. एक तो ये है कि ऑब्वियसली एज पर ऋषि पराशर, ग्रह कहाँ बैठा है, किसका लॉर्ड है, लग्न से कैसा बैठा है, दशानाथ अंतर्दशानाथ से कैसा बैठा है, वो स्वराशि है, उच्चस्थ है, नीचस्थ है, अस्त है, वक्री है. एक तो ये पैटर्न हो गया, राइट. उसके हिसाब से हम देखेंगे कि ये दशा अच्छी जाएगी कि बुरी जाएगी, स्पेसिफिकली विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द लग्न एज वेल एज द चंद्र लग्न. बट जो ऑब्जर्वेशन है वो ये है कि ग्रह किसी भी स्थिति में अपना बेसिक नेचर नहीं छोड़ता. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, if you are running into moon dasha, moon can be very well placed with a very good planet, but you will be in some sort of emotional balance or emotional imbalance. Either you will be happy or unhappy, because that is the nature of moon. Same with the Rahu. Rahu can give you everything. It can take everything from you, but come what may, in Rahu dasha there will be an aspiration. The aspiration can be of moksha also, but the aspiration has to be there. Same way when Saturn will come, obviously there can be little bit of vairagya. It can come through dhyan or it can come through sorrow, but there will be a feeling of vairagya. So a point which I want to make is that the planet will never leave its nature, right? Surya, Mars, if the Mars will come in your chart, either you will be very aware about your physical fitness, or maybe you will be suffering from physical fitness. So physical fitness has to be in the chart. So that's why these common dashas, obviously the right prediction can be done only through an individual chart where the placement is. But say for example, Rahu dasha, Guru antar dasha, Guru dasha, Rahu antar dasha. So these are very popular. People say it will create a Chandal Yoga. Yes, it can create, but sometimes Rahu Dasha, Guru Antardasha can be very rewarding. Guru Dasha, Rahu Antardasha, I have always seen that it can be problematic because Rahu, when Rahu is coming to Jupiter, now the decision maker is Rahu, Guru. If you are running into Guru Dasha, Rahu Antardasha, the decision maker, as Dr. Saab has said, Mahadasha Nath is the decision maker, and Rahu is trying to influence the Dasha Nath. It is into the Antardasha. So Guru Dasha, Rahu Antardasha, when Guru is already spent around 14, 13 and a half years, you have already spent 13 and a half years in Guru Dasha, Rahu will try to change your value system. So that's why it is very dangerous. So entire Guru Dasha will be different, but Rahu Dasha, Guru Dasha, Rahu Antardasha can be extremely difficult, extremely difficult sometime, specifically if they are not placed well from each other or from the Lagna. Same way Shani Dasha, Rahu Antardasha, because Rahu will try to influence the Vairagya of Shani. So it can be very confusing sometimes, painful also. Chandra Dasha, Rahu Antardasha can give you obsession, maybe for a good sake, maybe for a good reason. But whenever Moon and Rahu will come, it can create some sort of obsession. Rahu Dasha, Venus Antardasha can be very good in terms of wealth, whereas Venus Dasha, Rahu Antardasha can be dangerous in terms of lust. So the nature of the Graha can also influence the Dasha, irrespective of whatever they are doing in your chart through their placement, Rashi placement, Nakshatra placement, and their lordship. But the nature will play a very important role. There can always be an exception that Guru Dasha, Rahu Antardasha is very good. That can only happen when the upcoming Dasha of Saturn is into a very good placement or maybe a very good lordship. Because every going Dasha will create a path for the upcoming Dasha. So the every last antar dasha of any dasha will actually give the Jyotishi an idea that what is going to happen on an intuitive level. Obviously, we will be analyzing the chart on the placement and everything, but the dasha chitra or any on the intuitive level, it gives a very fair idea. तो वैसे तो जनरल है, इंडिविजुअल चार्ट पे होता है, बट इन दशाओं में जो आपने भी मेंशन किया, मैंने मेंशन किया, ध्यान देना चाहिए इसके कि ये ट्रिकी हो सकती है.
Okay. Dr. Pai, would you like to add anything which was you've seen in your experience in these special dashas?
Yes. One caveat I would also mention, in addition to what Alokji has mentioned, caveat is don't depend only on one dasha system because that can create a lot of scare. Like majority of them will only rely on Vimshotri dasha and they say, Abhina, we are going through this. Now, if you see, at least use 2 to 3 different dasha systems to validate, because if in another dasha system you are going through kind of a favorable thing, maybe this dasha might. So first of all, we do not know which dasha is going to really act. So it is not that, even though Prasharishi talks about Vimshotri dasha, but in my own thing, you can use multiple other dashas to cross verify. When you cross verify and you see the same pattern in different dashas, then you are more confident of giving the the outcome. But I completely agree. See, now I would say how I study the dashas, and this is my own technique. I'm not trying to say that, see, there are 3 ways of studying any text. Whatever you are given, there are 3 ways of studying it. Okay, this is my way of trying to study Jyotish as well, because that is because I'm a researcher. So I'm not a Jyotishi first. I'm a researcher first, and then you can call me a student of Jyotish. Okay, I'm not a Jyotishi. So even in the classical text, is said that whenever you have to study something, there is something called as Shabdarth. Shabdarth means literal meaning. So people will just take the literal meaning and they will start, and that is why when we have to decode shlokas which are given in the classical books, we need to use a little bit of common sense, which is little uncommon today, because we go with the Shabdarth, which means literal meaning. Then there is Bhavarth. Bhavarth means contextual meaning. You have to see the context in which the question is being asked. Like if somebody is asking you about marriage, first of all, you have to see whether the native is in the marriageable age or not. isn't it? So that is the context. So we need to fix the context. And then the final thing is Lakshart. Lakshart means that is the coded meaning which is there in every interpretation. For studying all of this, I heavily rely on folklores, legends, Puranic stories, and Itihasa, which means what is given in our Itihasa is Ramayana, Mahabharata, and all of these. Because there is so much of codified secrets within them, if you can understand that, will help you to interpret how these dashas will play. And like I give an example, how I interpret Surya Mahadasha and Shukra Antardasha and Shukra Antardasha and Surya Mahadasha. These two. So, if you look at Ramayana, you see in Ramayana when the Pinaka bow, which was there with Janaka Raja, and Rama goes there and he breaks the Pinaka bow of Shiva, which was kept there for safekeeping by by Parashurama. Parashurama comes raging there. He says, "Who has done this act? I'm going to kill him, slay him with my parashu." Parashu means his axe. But as soon as he comes face to face with Lord Sri Ram, he understands my avatar is over, because there is another avatar of Vishnu who has come here and he is now stronger. So what he does is he goes into Pashatap. He gives all of his powers is gone straight into Sri Rama. Sri Rama is very humble in front of Parashurama, but Parashurama realizes. So this is an interplay between, because Sri Rama here represents Surya and Parashurama represents Shukra. So understand, whenever Shukra comes very close proximity with Surya, what happens? It becomes Astha. So anybody who comes in front of Sri Rama will lose his powers. So this is the interplay that you can see even in the Dasha period. That's why I said not everything that you see on television, there is a literal meaning, but there is also a lakshart in every of these episodes. So if you understand this, then you will know what is Surya Mahadasha and the Shukra Antardasha. It means Shukra will feel weaker when it comes in proximity. So that is how you try to interpret. The same Shani Mahadasha, and Mangala Antardasha, or Mahadasha and Shani Mahadasha. What will happen? It is similar to Lord Hanumanji. One is Shani shows his discipline, his loyalty, his humility, and Rama Kaja Karibeko Ato. That's what they say in his Hanuman Chalisa, isn't it? So he's always ready to do any service to Ram. That is his Shani. But when he is asked to show his might, then he can become as big as Garima, Lagima, all of these. Asta Siddhi Navanidhi Ke Data Asabari Dina Janaki Mata. Isn't it? Because Janaki is from Janakpur, which means she is a Mata Sita has given him this Astasiddhis and Navanidhis, but he never uses that to show his power. Only when he has to show courage, he can even lift a mountain and come. But otherwise, he is like Shani. When he has to show in the battlefield, he could have even slayed Ravana and killed him, but he said, no, this is not my duty. This is the karma of my master. He let him finish his karma. So that is the beauty of Shani and Mangal, which is shown by the same Hanuman. But what happens? It is one is the nature. That is the Shabdharth. That's what Alokji was saying. Mars is more of aggression, fighting, all of that. And Shani is more like, so if I have to say in English, it is flight or fight controversy that is always there. Whenever you're faced with danger, you have only two options. One is to flight. Flight means to run away. That is usually Shani. If Shani is weak in your chart, you will flight. But if Mangal is strong in your chart, then you will fight. So fight or flight. Not that Shani is strong. Flight doesn't mean that you are weak or you are timid. You are waiting for an opportune time to again go back. But you are saying today is not the day that I want to show my powers. Let me be smart enough. Shani shows is intelligent. Today, if you are surrounded by 5 people and you will say, okay, I will fight and become brave, you might get hammered, isn't it? So that day, if it is to run away, but then one day you will pick each of these 5 people and you'll fight. So Shani is wisdom also. Don't think that Shani is always going to give you depression, pain. Shani is using your common sense the most common way. But Mangal, what? If it is too much powerful, you will dare everything. You might be victorious, but what is the risk? So you need to weigh your. So Dashas and Antardashas are also like they are weighing. It's a trade-off. Sometimes you need to take some decisions in the Antardasha, even though if it is not favorable. And sometimes you have to use your sense to say whether should I do this or not. So I encourage all your viewers to look at anything subjectively and objectively as well. That's why I said always use this yardstick of Shabdhartha, which means there is a literal meaning to everything, Bhavartha, which is a contextual meaning based on the circumstances, and the Lakshartha, which is a coded meaning. So those people who understand the coded meaning will be able to appreciate Jyotish. Otherwise, Shabdarth, everybody will say, okay, in this dasha, this antara dasha, this is going to happen, this is always, it is cannot be universalized. Isn't it? So some people come and say, Jupiter Mahadasha was my worst Mahadasha. Shani Mahadasha was much better than the Jupiter Mahadasha. Isn't it? So it is not because Jupiter Mahadasha, generally Shabdarth is what? Jupiter Mahadasha should be very good. Shani Mahadasha should not be good. But people have not understood the essence of dashas. But I agree with Alok ji, no planet will leave its natural traits and its qualities. It can always compromise, but it will never lose its true trust that it has to give the results.
Thank you so much for giving us time from your important schedule. So, namaskar,
Thank you
Dr.
very
Pai.
much.
Namaskar, Alok sir. तो दर्शकों ये थे हमारे डॉक्टर पाई और आलोक सर discussing the importance of dasha in Vedic Jyotish. We'll again come back with another podcast topic very soon. Till then, namaskar.